I'm easily fascinated. I'm feeling so creative. It's your boy Stevie, I'm a planet Earth native. I'm enjoying all the moments cause it's such a thrill living. And I'm not sure if you notice, listen up, we're still spinning.
What's up, world? What's going on? Welcome to the Still Spinning podcast. Talk about everything under the sun and beyond, the whole universe, the galaxy. What is skin? What is it? I'm your host. I'm your only guest today, Stephen Celi, 5'10", dunk lifer on a journey to become the best dunker I can be. Why? Because I love it. Does it need more than that? And it's just something I've always dreamed about. My first journey, number one, was to get my first dunk, and I'm currently on 2.0, self-proclaimed. Journeys to get to a 50-inch vertical. That's not Journey 2.0. That's just the end goal. But Journey 2.0, if you look at my start day video of 2.0, Dunk Journey 2.0, beginning, whatever, you'll see all the goals I set up in the description. I should actually go look at those, but I kind of know they're kind of just dribble dunks off, like dribble windmill, dribble tomahawk, dribble between the legs, just a bunch of dunks that I wanted to hit, and that's why it's still 2.0. Someone mentioned, I thought you started the new dunk journey every time you got injured. No, that's just, it's just been a while, and I have a lot of injuries. Anyway, on this podcast, we talk about everything, mainly dunking, which is today's episode solely, but talk about everything I want to. I'm going to have some more guests on, hopefully in the future. It's really hard to coordinate, but I just want to share everything I learned about this life, what's going on. Still Spinning represents also your time to reflect that you're just kind of on this spaceship with all these other humans, and to try to make the most out of this life that you can, enjoy the most, and just think more about what you're doing. Just kind of be aware. This is your moment to kind of realize, like, I'm just kind of roaming around, and then you could think more outside the box and not just get caught up in your life. So I hope this is a reminder of that. But anyway, welcome and thank you. If you're listening, I love you. If you're watching on YouTube, hello, I'm waving. And yeah, let's get into it. So basically, what is the best dunk program? How do I jump higher? Which one should I choose? Can I reach 45 inches? Where do I start? Hoping to answer most of those questions. And I've just been seeing so many things about this for years now, obviously. I've been trying to give my advice, but I kind of wanted to try to sum it up in one podcast. And I know there'll be more podcasts after this strictly about dunking and training, because I'm constantly learning more. And that's one of the principles I really want to get to. And I'll just start with that. And that is the best program right now is the one that is designed specifically for you. And that is kind of what sparked this entire episode, is the fact that people ask me all the time, what's the best program? Have you tried this one? Oh, and I do want to say this real quick to get these out of the way, the negatives. I don't like any negatives, but I don't know anything about Boeing Vert, but I don't like their method. It seems like they take people's videos, so I'm really not for that. And Vert Shock stole my videos personally. They put them on YouTube, and they were up for months or years, and they were getting a lot of views off it, so people thought I did that. So that is something I must put out there, because I really do not appreciate that. I understand you use videos, but I'm very nice when it comes to that thing. If you take my videos without permission, but you give me credit and you acknowledge that this is just someone who's got vertical, and you're not trying to promote your program, you're just kind of a fan, I guess you could say, I don't mind as much. It's still not my favorite thing, but if you take my videos and act like they're yours and act like I use your program, I must slight you. So Vert Shock, definite thumbs down, 100%. Never even use it. Please boycott them for doing that to me. I had to dispute them on you. It was a whole thing. But that is just something that, for all the work you put in, have zero respect and try to, you get it. Anyway, besides that, the programs I would use, or just to get that quick out there, Jordan Kilgannon's Bounce Kit. I know he put his heart and soul into that. And same with Daniel Back at Jump Science. Tyler Ray, I know he coaches. I'm not sure if he's got his own program. I believe he does. John Evans, of course, he's a great coach trainer. All these guys that I respond to and I mentioned in the past, they're all great. If I'm leaving you out, I'm sorry. ATG, they're great for knee health, which I'll get into as well here. I've learned a lot from them, specifically on knees. Again, all these programs I haven't really used. Bounce Kit I've used a little bit. Daniel Back's Jump Science I've used a little bit as well. So I can only go from experience and talking to those guys in person about their program and how they approached making a program. So out of that, getting all that out of the way, the number one thing you can do is diagnose yourself and figure out what you need, because all these programs, no matter how much time they put in, they're not going to be able to capture exactly what you need. But that's what this podcast is as well. I'm going to tell you everything that you need. So hopefully you can come away with this knowing exactly where to start, or at least what to look for in yourself. So let's just get started. So obviously, to simplify jumping, just to give a quick overview, I want to go over strength training, speed training, nutrition, recovery, listening to your body, and your mindset. So those are the things I'm going to try to touch on today. I'm not an expert in any of them, but I'm constantly doing research, so I do want to try to give all my best information that can lead you to success. So jumping specifically, or what was I going to say? Not specifically, but simply, is strength plus speed equals power, aka force, jumping higher. So you need to get stronger, you need to get faster. Now, for everybody thinking about themselves, if you're just starting out and you want to start dunking, I always recommend just jumping first, because just like anything you do, when you do that activity, you're going to get better at it. So jumping, there's a lot of technique involved. That's something else I want to touch on as well. There's a lot of technique involved. So if you jump and you play basketball once a week, you play on a team, even though you're jumping a lot, you probably have good form. You're not specifically jump training to jump higher. So you probably have jumped higher as like during your season or something because you're jumping more. But if you want to get higher, specifically jumping higher, you're going to have to jump more and just work on that technique. So technique first and just do that. But if you're already jumping and now you don't know what to do, you finish your jump phase, obviously the next thing to do is get stronger. But even before you get stronger, you just want to go to every single detail. And I think that's going to be the theme of this whole episode, is you need to research every little detail of your body so you can see if you are ready for the next stage. And that's kind of the main point of all these different things. Is I'm not an expert in any one of these fields when it comes to strength or speed training, or I feel like I'm not an expert because I can't tell you exactly what to do. But the thing is, I can tell you what things to look for to give you the best idea of what you need to attack first. So for example, I was about to say you need to do strength training, but I actually think before that, you need to see if you have full range of motion with these exercises, if you have full mobility and full stretching. Because for me, when I started strength training years and years ago, before I was even dunk training, I was just getting stronger. And my legs specifically, I got them super strong and grew them. But by doing that, I didn't stretch as well. It made them super tight, and now I'm really immobile, and that's hurting me down the long run. So it's really hard to reverse that. But if you haven't started that yet, or you're about to start strength training, definitely work on your technique for strength training as well, just like we were talking about for jump training. Work on your strength technique. Just don't worry about going heavy. Don't worry about getting stronger, because you will. If you just do lightweight and work on your technique, the repetitive motion and just doing the motion of the strength training will get you stronger initially. Anyway, so once you do that, start strength training, do the big lifts, squats, deadlifts. It's pretty self-explanatory. You obviously need to get stronger. You obviously need to get your legs stronger, but everything stronger is not going to hurt you as long as you're not doing it for way too long. If you're doing it for years and years, you're just going to become a good lifter. You're not going to become an athlete. So always have in mind that you're an athlete, but get stronger. Do squats, do deadlifts, do hip thrusts, do front squats, do unilateral different things, which means single legs, because you want to keep that balance and you want to work on each leg individually, because you're going to be missing different things if you just do everything 2 foot. Even if you're a 2 foot jumper, you really want to do single leg exercises for a host of different reasons. But just keep in mind, you want to constantly be pushing yourself. But I'm going to get now into deep strength training and kind of a quick overview of what you want to do. So there's, from the book I read, World's Fittest Book by Ross Edgley, I learned a lot, and it's pretty gradual of what he said, and I really liked it. So I really think this is a good blueprint for what people should do. So there's maximum strength training, number 1, strength speed training, number 2, peak power training, speed strength training, and maximal velocity. And basically what this is it's taking absolute strength at first and then gradually moving down the velocity force curve to more speed. So I'll just give you an example. So for the first stage, maximum strength training, you're going to be wanting to do 90 to 100% of your 1 rep max and just building that strength. And when it comes to sets and reps, that's another thing you need to look into, because when you're doing lower reps, you're going to be building more absolute strength. But if you're doing about 60 to 70% of your 1 rep max for higher reps, 8 to 12 reps, you're going to be causing more hypertrophy, however you say it, but that's going to increase the size of your muscle. Now, you don't always want size. Sometimes you just want strength. The time you want size is when you've built strength, but you're having a plateau of strength and it's hard for you to get stronger. That's a really tough thing to do. Just like jumping, when you're trying to strength train, you're going to have great gains I'm talking high level right now. You're going to have great gains in the beginning, but as soon as you get to a level and you're having trouble gaining strength, the next thing you might do is might need to drop the weight a little bit, do more reps so you can intentionally build more size of the muscle, because then you have more potential for strength. So these are all the type of details that I'm trying to give you so you see how much detail goes into these different training stages. It's not just get stronger. Sometimes it's hard to just get stronger. You need to figure out how you can get stronger. If you've done lifts for a while and you've plateauing, you've switched up lifts and you just can't break that threshold, maybe you need to switch it up and just build a little more size first, get that strength, and then start going back to the speed training. Anyway, get stronger is number 1, pretty simple. And then strength speed training, which is after maximum strength, you're going to basically just drop the weight a little bit, 80 to 100% of your 1 rep max instead of 90 to 100, and just try to move it a little faster. An example of this would be Olympic lifts like snatch, clean and jerk, snatch press. But the whole point is that you're doing the similar movements, but a little bit faster, and you're a little bit fast, and you're going to get the theme of these phases. So Olympic lifts. This is all from the book. This is not the perfect program, but I definitely think it's a great way to approach strength training when it comes to using strength for speed, ultimately most power you can produce. So then the third stage is peak power. You want to do heavy and fast, so almost like a balance between heavy and fast. So it started off mainly just heavy, then you're a little bit lighter with more speed. Now you're going to be about equal heavy and speed. So you want to do about 30 to 80%. I know that's a big range, but you want to deliver peak power. So clean and snatch or medicine ball throws, but just think of things full speed, but with still a good amount of weight. So you got to play with this, and you got to figure out what you just did. You got to know what your max is, and you got to know what the percentages is. So that's another part of the strength stage that will really be helpful. One sec, I got to change because I'm freaking hot in this sweater. So starting your strength phase, obviously the first thing we'd do is master the lifts. Then you want to start increasing your capacity, how many lifts you can do, increasing the volume, getting better at the lifts, because that's going to be gains in the beginning no matter what. And then once you master the lifts, you're going to understand your 1 rep max, kind of get where you're going, and then start transitioning to the speed. So we did maximum strength, strength speed, peak power, and now speed strength. So the goal of this is to move faster than you did with strength speed. So even though the second stage was strength speed, you want to do even faster. And this is going to be like plyometrics, hurdle jumps, light loaded squats. So as you see, we're just kind of going down, gradually lessening the weight and adding more speed. And then after this stage is going to be maximum velocity training, and that's sprints. But then to go even further than that, you can do sprints downhill. So it's actually faster than you could run to kind of train your system and get it used to going even faster. And another instance of that is resistance bands jumps. So I always never understood those, but now I finally do, is like when you see people holding resistance bands and they jump with them to kind of lift themselves up, what that's doing is allowing yourself to feel what it's like to move at a faster velocity. So that's just 5 stages that are going right down the force velocity curve, very basic, but that's the way you should be approaching it. You want to gradually move to more speed. And then another thing about training is if you're in season or you have a training season, you got to plan for these accordingly, because during your maximum strength training phase, the beginning, you're probably going to be the least fast, you're going to be the least explosive, you're going to be the least elastic. So you don't want to do that when you're starting your training, your season. Like say you just started playing basketball, but you want to do this like the beginning of your off season. So that way, when you're gradually coming down this curve, getting to your peak speed, you'll be hitting your season, you'll be right on time. And that's what I think is the best way to do it. So I hope that made sense. When it comes to figuring out what you need, I feel like that's the most important, because I feel like all these programs will do this type of thing. But if you're somebody that's super strong, the best thing to do for yourself is figure out what you are. If you're super strong, but you don't jump that high, obviously you have the strength, but now you need to convert it to peak power and then speed. So maybe start at a different stage. And if you're fast, or you don't know if you're fast or you're strong, I would definitely start with technique of jumping. And if you're kind of in the middle, you've been jumping, you've been lifting, try to figure out, based on people that are your size, your weight, and how much you lift compared to them. Because if you're lifting nowhere near these top athletes, like I just saw Jonathan Clark, shout out to Jay Clark, just lifted front squat at 395 pounds. And I think he weighs less than me. I weigh 175 right now. Pretty sure he weighs less. And he's just incredibly strong. So it makes sense, if he's lighter weight, and he lifts so much more than me, that he's going to have way more power output, able to jump way higher. That's insane, by the way. But yeah, so if you're a little bit good at both, right, and you're having trouble, I would say just kind of think about what your weaknesses are, because there's no way you're the fastest you can be or the strongest you can be, right? You could just need to get better at one. So if you just want to jump higher, I would say if you're doing both, try to focus on one. I would probably say jump until you're at the bottom of the velocity curve, like the speed curve. Just because if you've been strength training for a while, you can actualize that and go for the speed. But I don't know. That's what I'm saying. It really depends on where you're at. You really got to figure out what you're doing. And another thing with that is you always want to be lean. You always want to have low body fat. So when I'm strength training, for me, this is another thing that goes back to strength training, is that when I strength train, I wasn't doing the right amount of reps, I don't think. But even if I was, my body definitely blows up when I lift. Like if I do squats for like 2-3 weeks, I blow up. Like I don't know if I was just doing too many reps, where I was just really causing a lot of hypertrophy, however you effing say it, and I was blowing up. Like I literally gained 15 pounds from when I started. I was 170, went up to 185. My clothes were all tight. It was very obvious I got really bulky. I was swole. But I was trying to build strength, and I was going heavier and heavier every week, but my reps were going from like around 6 to 8. So I think for me that was too high. So you got to try it as well, because some people might be do those reps and only build strength and not build things, because everybody's body's a little different. So you got to see what way your body adapts. Take a look at your parents too. Like I know my dad is stockier and bulkier. So I think my body's adapted to lift that way. And from previous years of lifting, I probably am trying to gain size. So to kind of sum it up, try to figure out where you are. Usually you're not right in the middle, because if you're right in the middle, you're probably just doing both. So just kind of pick one, try to see how fast you're going. If you're stronger than the average, a little faster. If you're right in the average, let me think about that for a sec. If you're probably, that's kind of like me, right? Is like I'm jumping. I would say if you're doing a little bit of both, you feel like you're averagely strong, average vert, see if you can just focus on jumping and see if you can jump higher. You probably will jump a little bit higher, but then that'll be your peak that you can do, because you're maximizing what your strength level is. But you can only jump as high as your strength level is, as long as you're actualizing that strength. And you have to actualize it by doing jumping. You have to, or plyometrics, or the assisted thing. So do all those things to see how high you can jump at that thing. Use all your gains that you have. Use all your strength the fastest you can. And then go back to the strength training, which is what I'm going to do after I'm fully healthy. I'm going to go over my current training in another podcast, just because I've been training for so long, and I think it's a really good insight to what is going into my next stage, because I did strength training, then I hurt my knee, and now I'm kind of resting. And that's why I've learned all this, because I've been researching so much about every little detail, specifically tendons and how to strengthen them without overloading them and preventing injuries. And yeah, I'm going to get into that in another podcast. The tendon health is probably going to be my very next one. I really wanted to do this one, because I just finished researching that like today or last night, and it was fresh in my mind, but I had to be loyal to my boys. You guys You guys voted on my YouTube which one you wanted to hear first, and it was the dunk program one. So definitely wanted to get this one out there as well. But podcast coming soon, probably even tomorrow or even the next day. But I'm going to try to pump these out because I really think it's good information. I know you guys want to start training now and you don't want to wait. And I want to get it out so you guys can do it now. Okay, so you want to stay lean. You want to get strong and fast. I mean, it's pretty simple, but the hard part is figuring out where you are on that curve. But go back to the foundations. Definitely build a strong foundation. And that's kind of the next thing I want to touch on, which is staying healthy. And that's probably the number one thing to help you progress long term. And I think a big thing, there's a lot of different things on staying healthy, but number one is nutrition. I think it's really beneficial to eat really healthy. You have more energy for more these lifts. You're sleeping better, which you recover better. It's just, there's endless amounts. I don't really think I need to justify eating healthier, but you need to stay lean to jump. You're trying to use your body to its peak. You want to be the peak athlete you can be. You don't want to, you want to fuel it correctly. You're straining it. You're really putting a stress on your muscles and your tendons and your bones. You really want to give it good fuel, and you want to be able to have good energy for all your workouts. And it's just something that if you really want to make these next level gains, you really got to hammer down on your nutrition. And just body fat alone is just something that's so easily tangible that you can see how you would jump higher. If you lose weight, you're going to have more force for a lighter weight, so you're going to jump higher. That's probably the easiest way to jump higher, is that if you have body fat, cut that down and you'll be good. But when you're doing the sprints and you're doing the lower end of the force velocity curve, you're probably, the high intensity type activities, you're probably going to cut up, because that's definitely a great way to do that. But you want to keep your tendons healthy as well, like your body healthy. And that's where I think mobility and flexibility is huge, because if you're tight like me, you're very prone to injuries, which then delays your training, which is the worst. I'm telling you, if you haven't been injured, I'm sure 95% of you have been injured. It's the worst. But flexibility is huge, so that way you can get full range of motion when you're stretching, which also helps recovery, but also helps your body just stay healthy. And then you could also do the lifting techniques correctly, because right now for me, my hamstrings are super tight. My hips are super tight. That hurts both. It hurts both of my squats and my deadlifts. It's hard for me to lean over, all those different things. And then I'm going to end up hurting something else, which is why I haven't been able to make the best gains on my lifts. So you really want to be flexible. Your body stays healthy. If you're more mobile, you can get into more positions and you could stretch all the different tendons and keep everything loose and moving. And more on that is recovery. So just keep moving on through these things. Is when you do these big lifts, or if you're doing big jumping sessions, you have to have active recovery. And I don't mean that as moving. I just mean you have to actively recover. You can't just sit and do nothing to let your body. You probably can get away with it some days, but I really am a big fan of getting the blood flowing. And the more I'm researching, I'm not a scientist or a doctor, but from just my experience too, when I get the blood moving, what do I just do? Like my dynamic warm up, that's all I do, is just do some like leg kicks, whether it's the front to the side, some little body squats. When you get the blood flowing, you can feel your body moving and you break a sweat. And just from what I've looked up and everything I read, is the blood brings the oxygen to the cells to help them repair and things like that. And the tissues to repair, and your ligaments and your tendons. So you need that blood flowing. So if you're just sitting still, you're not getting that blood flowing to help it repair, and it's definitely detrimental to your overall recovery. So definitely get the blood flowing on off days, but conserve your energy. Because for me, on those days, sometimes I would say I'm going to go dunk to get the blood flowing, like kind of just warm up, and then I would kind of go a little too hard, and I wasn't ready for that, and my body was in recovery mode, so then I kind of pushed it, and then I overtrained. And another point I need to hammer home is always focus on that adaptation phase. You just think of your stimulus of making progress. You got to hit that sweet spot every workout, every recovery session of creating stimulus that helps you adapt. Because if you go too far, you're going to overtrain and you're going to go backwards. If you don't stimulate enough, you're not going to stimulate any growth. You're not going to stimulate recovery, whatever it is. And for example, when I'm recovering right now for my knee, I'm doing super light lifts on my leg, like isometrics. But what that's doing is stimulating blood to come to there, number one, but also stimulating recovery mechanisms for my body to go heal my knee. So if I'm using my tendon, but super lightly, like stressing it very little and no pain, I'm going to get into that more in the next podcast. But basically, you just want to stimulate it just enough so it can stimulate those recovery mechanisms to come heal yourself. So on a recovery day, that's why stretching is so great. It's you're kind of breaking it down. Stretching is using your muscles, contracting your muscles, things like that. So you're going to recruit whatever it is to help heal that muscle. And if you do it such a slight amount, you're going to hit that right adaptation phase. But a lot of these things as well, like we were talking about strength and speed, you want to strength train to hit the right adaptation. If you're going to squat like crazy one day, you probably did a great stimulus, but if you go again the very next day, you're probably going to do it too much, and then you're going to be over sore or pull something. It's just, you really got to hit that adaptation phase and not go over it, and be disciplined not to go over it, which I haven't been in the past. And if you know me, I've been going really hard for years, but now I'm trying to be a lot smarter and be very diligent so I can make more gains, because it's not fun when you're not making gains and you don't know why, but you're going hard. So mobility. All right. So another thing for recovery you can do is like Epsom salt baths. Just throw some Epsom salt. You get it at Walmart or Amazon, whatever, and just throw it in the bath and soak in that for 20 minutes. You can ice. You can go in a cold bath or a sauna. The thing about the sauna is that I think it's really great for inflammation, especially if you're rehabbing an injury. And I think it's great during like a week of workouts, like maybe one of the days. But I don't think it's great before explosive elastic activities, because I think if you do it too close to that, you're going to be a little too loose. You're not going to be, your muscles are almost going to be too loose. That's how it felt in my experience. I didn't do it that long, but the sauna has incredible benefits. It produces heat shock proteins, and there's just all these extremes really create these different environments in your body that change its composition and really help you heal and recover. And there's just too many benefits for the sauna. If you have access to it, I definitely recommend it. And then cold exposure as well. An ice bath is so great for you. And there's so much research on this. Wim Hof is like this crazy, I think he's Dutch guy that's revolutionizing the world with his cold therapy and breathing techniques. And I'm going to start probably doing more of them. But basically, he's just doing these breathing techniques and cold therapy, and he's being able to control his body. But other than that, other than like him being able to control his different systems, like his endocrine system or some crazy nonsense, not nonsense, but you know what I mean? He's able to heal his body so much faster. And these cold therapy things I've been reading are just incredibly beneficial for your body and recovery. And it's just, I think my camera stopped one sec. Cold therapy is beneficial. That's pretty much it. Look into that, because if you have access to that, it's amazing for your body. The cold exposure is so good for you. And just like anything, moreover, and just in life in general, it's not great to just do things that are comfortable. Everything that's uncomfortable, if you can hit it just in that adaptation phase, just like I was mentioning, it's going to be very beneficial for you. So the cold exposure, if you do it way too much, obviously you're going to get hypothermia or whatever. But if you give yourself just enough, your body can respond to it and get stronger from it. Nothing happens without a stimulus or a stressor. So doing this cold therapy is just a great example of that, because you need to start stressing it. And if, like people used to say, this is like something that I love to bring up, is if it's cold outside and you go outside, you're going to get sick. But that's very not true. It could be true that you got sick, but that's because you were very weak to that system. But if you gave yourself exposure to it gradually, you'll get stronger and stronger, and you'll be even more healthy than you were if you weren't getting that exposure. So expose yourself to everything. Give your body what it needs. Always listen to your body. Is my camera dying on me? One sec. And that leads me into the next one, which is listening to your body. It's something that I've learned very recently during this time off, because I finally took the time to heal my knee, and I've also never rested this long ever. It's been close to 4 weeks. It's been 3 weeks and exactly 5 days. 6 days. Oh my God. Tomorrow's 4 weeks. So I've never not jumped for this long. I've taken care of my body, meaning I've noticed when things hurt, I've taken time off, but if I can train, I'll always train. But my body feels great. I feel more mobile, and just know that if you have any type of slight ailment or even just obstruction in your body, it's going to hurt you in the long run, and you're not building that foundation. So listen to every little ache and pain, and there's a reason for that. Either your form is incorrect or you're overloading it, which is causing damage. So it's giving you that sign for a reason. And the other one besides pain is your energy levels. You really want to stay in that adaptation phase, because that's the only time you're going to make progress. If you don't stimulate enough, you're not going to stimulate any growth or in any way. And if you go over, you're going to overtrain. So you need to really try to monitor your energy levels, and don't be afraid to take the day off, because I've always been the one to always push yourself more. But all these things, like I'm saying, all this training, you have to start learning how to read your body and what your energy levels are. So there's ways to do that as well, which is like the heart rate variability. It's not the best for the training we're doing as dunkers, which is like strength training. That's more for cardiovascular, but it is a way to help gauge your heart and where it's at when you wake up. So you can wear a heart monitor and just take your reading in the morning and get a number from that. But I would say just try to over time track what you're doing, because by tracking what you're doing and how you feel and how many days of rest you've had and what workout you did last, you can really get a sense for how you're doing. So, but just be smart about it too. If you're going to strength train and you're going to do a huge squat set, right? The next day you might, if you did it in the evening at 5 or 6 in the night, and the next day you barely feel sore, you're probably not feeling it yet, because that's a full body taxing workout that even though you have the energy that day, give it another day. And I'm not saying take 2 days every time you do a big lift. I mean, every time you do a training session, but if you do a big lift, definitely take that into account. And you just don't want to overtrain, because that'll lead to injuries and only detriment you. You can always train harder if you take another day off. So I'm becoming more of a proponent of resting, because I'm learning a lot about just trying to learn the most I can about the body, and how running is a different type of extreme sport, like ultra endurance runners, and how people train for that. I'm reading a lot of books. One is Beyond Training by Ben Greenfield, and he's talking about endurance. And one thing with endurance is one of the greatest principles almost a lot of the top athletes use is this 80-20 rule, where 80% of their training is very easy on their body. It's basically below the aerobic threshold, I believe it is, or anaerobic. I'm pretty sure it's aerobic. But what that means is they're running at a conversational pace. They're not pushing themselves that hard. And then 20% of their training would be pushing themselves, so either for distance or for speed, but they also do a variety. So what that's and they're becoming extreme endurance athletes by only doing 20% of their training that's pushing themselves. So yes, they're pushing themselves hard, but they're giving themselves enough time, and the other times that they're doing the 80% is giving that stimulus, but also allowing their body to stay healthy, because if they do too much, they're not going to make long-term progress. So I think I'm going to be using that principle for my training, which is if I do max jumps, right? I was doing like 3 to 4 times a week, but I think what I'm going to do, instead of doing like 3 full jump sessions, I might have, if I'm in my jump phase where I'm just mostly doing jumping and sprinting and that type of thing, I'll probably do 2 of the days pretty light, where I warm up and do very little jumps, just kind of stimulate my body. And I've felt that on certain days when I do that, it feels great. Kind of warm up, do like 3 or 4 max jumps, and then cut it. And then you kind of got your body and told it what to do, but you're not overexerting it, and you're going to really go hard the next session. So then I'll have like 1 max jump day where I go all out and have like a full session where I jump a ton of times and just really push myself. But the moral of that principle is that the majority of the time you're giving the stimulus, but you're not pushing yourself. You're not trying to make the gains every session. And I think that can go for every phase that you're in. If you're in the strength training phase, you're not trying to lift heavier every session. So maybe do the heavy lifts, but a couple sessions, maybe leave a couple in the tank. So that way you can, like I said, create that stimulus, but let your body not die and not push yourself over that edge, and then have that one workout you're about to really increase your max. And I think that's a great way to go about it. Now, lastly, is something I learned a few months ago when I started the podcast about manifesting and setting goals, and that was a huge one. And that is the mindset and visualizing you doing something, because you can't do anything unless you 100% believe it. And it's very true if you look back at anything you've ever achieved, you had to have some kind of belief that you can do it. Not that if you thought in the back of your head there was any doubt you can do it, you probably did not do it. I would bet to say if you really thought about anything you've ever achieved, you really believed you can do it. For me, the between the legs, I haven't hit on 10 feet, but on 9-10, I knew I can do it. Even though my technique was terrible, I just knew I could do it, and finally did it. Even though it was like a shock. And the windmill, even before that, when I was landing a windmill, it was not that it was a shock, but it was almost just like a bonus. So my mindset was a huge factor in all my dunks, is that the windmill, even though I didn't know I could do it and I just got it, it's like a shock that first time. It's not something I thought I had any doubt I can do. It's just I had to work to get it. And going even further to my first dunk, I had such a drive to do it. I knew I would never stop till I did it. And I can see myself doing it. I can believe myself doing it. And on the flip side of that, the two hands off the dribble, right, left, was such a mental block for me. It still is, because it's so hard to see myself doing it. And the reason why it's so hard is because it compounded for me not being able to do it, not getting close for years at a time, and just not being able to see myself doing it because I couldn't even get a right jump off of it. So if I couldn't even get a right jump off of it or take off correctly and all those different things, I couldn't even see myself doing it. So visualizing is a huge part of making any type of success. So you really have to see yourself doing it. And even just visualizing in your head can really help, because visualizing in your head over and over and over again, you can kind of get that. You can almost build muscle memory through your vision of it if you do it enough in your head. And then you could start to believe it because you see it. And that's what's great about low rimming. Low rimming is great because you build the muscle memory, you finish dunks, you can work on your hand speed, which is another aspect of dunk training, but you can see it happen and you can finish a dunk, and that gets in your brain. And if I told you, can you do it between the legs on 10 feet? If you can't do it, and you're nowhere close, you just touched the rim, you'd say no way. But if I say, can you do it on 7.5 feet or 7 feet? You'd say yes. That's because you can reach it, but you can believe it, right? But if you keep raising that, just keep gradually moving up, you'll believe it more and more, especially if you keep landing it and higher and you jump higher and things like that. But if you're nowhere close, you have to have that middle gap. And I believe that middle gap is being able to see it and especially feel it, because you have to believe that you can do it, or else your body just won't work properly. And it sounds mystical and it sounds but it's a big factor. And I guarantee anybody who's successful dunking has visualized doing a dunk that they've never done before. And if they haven't, for me, it's if I got close, now I believe. That's the thing, is a lot of it, even though if I didn't believe I can do it, if I got close, now my belief grew. It's oh, now I can do it. And that's a lot of times what happens, is that you'll get close, or you'll jump higher, or you'll get it on a lower rim that's somewhat close, like a 9.9, and then now you're oh, I can do this now on this rim, right? So a belief is a huge part of it, but also the muscle memory of just doing it on low rims is huge as well. So finishing that dunk, getting that hand speed. And hand speed is great too. I want to touch on that real quick. Use a medicine ball, go behind your back, practice the dunk, smash it onto a wall. If you can do it, say you're practicing between the legs, do the between the legs motion and then smash it high on a wall. So stand next to a wall. You've seen me do it in videos before, but that just helps you get that practice of reaching up with the ball after you go between the legs, and it gets your hand speed quicker going between your legs. But just use a medicine ball, go around your back, basic dribbling drills type things through your legs, each leg like a spider type dribble, and just get that hand speed working, because it's only beneficial. A lot of these things are pretty common sense, but you just don't think to do hand speed because you're not dribbling or whatever. But dunking is a lot of hands and movement, so if you can get your hand speed better and your coordination better, it's going to help you catch the ball, you do tricks with the ball, things like that. And I know I forgot technique, but I want to get into that really quick too towards the end. It's the foundation. You got to jump correctly if you want to jump high. Everybody jump styles is different. So if you're having success, I'd say stick with it. But if you have no idea where to start, if you're going off 2 feet, I have a whole video on how to jump off 2 feet. But just quickly, you want to take a big penultimate. So you want about like 2 to 3 steps at the most, and that's your max approach. So you take like maybe like 1. I think I take like 1 or 2. And then you take a big penultimate, which is like a big step. That's a big stride into your plants. And your plant for me is right, left. So my plant would be my right, left plant. So I plant my right foot, my left foot, take off. But my penultimate is stepping off my left leg with my right foot in front with a big stride of my right foot into my plant. So that penultimate is a huge factor in jumping. That's where you transfer your momentum upwards. So again, diagnose yourself. If you can touch rim off a standing vert, but you can't touch it on a run, you're not transferring that momentum well. Just basic physics, you should be able to get a little higher off your running approach than your standing, just because you're using some momentum and speed. You have some velocity coming into it and you're transferring that upwards. So you definitely want to use that and be able to use that. Now, it doesn't have to be that big of a disparity. If not, that's just your style of jumping, and you kind of want them to be close. If you have no standing vert, then you're using all speed, and you're not utilizing you're not that strong. I believe that points out, because you have no power. You're using like so much speed to jump, and that's kind of like me. I need to get stronger. So that's another way to check if you need to get stronger, is if your standing vert is way lower than your running vert. You could try your technique, but standing vert is pretty hard to not have good technique, just kind of stand and jump. So if your standing vert's way lower than your running vert, you probably need to get some strength work, because they should be fairly close, off by like 3-4 inches maybe. But when you're practicing footwork, start with just a standing vert, try to get balance and jump. But then the next thing I would do is literally just stand about your penultimate distance away from the rim and just do a penultimate takeoff. So just like for me, it would just be standing, take a big right foot step, and just big and explode. So take a big step as hard as I can and explode, and just rep that out, because that's the key to your jump, and that's going to connect your full approach. You can't do the full approach from the start if you don't have a good penultimate, because you're missing the middle piece. You need the link. So I would say work on those last 2 steps first. Just 2 steps as quick as you can, boom, and take off. Last 2 steps, which is right, left for me, and there should be almost simultaneous. As fast as you can, stay upright and explode up as fast as you can. And then add 1 step. So it'd be like, I'd take like a left foot step in front, and then a big penultimate, and then my takeoff, and just really push off my left foot into that penultimate to take a big stride. And just look at yourself, record yourself, and look at the pros, look at the really great jumper, someone who has a similar style to you, and try to emulate that. And that's another thing, going back to the theme of this podcast, is you have to do the research yourself, because no one's going to be able to, unless you have a coach or a trainer, they're not going to be able to point out these things. They're going to give you a program. You're going to buy a program, but you may do the program, but you're not doing it correctly. I'm just going to kind of sum up this whole thing right now, is that if you get a program, you may lift, but you're not lifting with the right intention. You may be lifting too fast. Some programs may tell you lift with this intensity, but you have to know what you're doing yourself. Even if they tell you to lift slow, right, and you're lifting slow, you may be going too fast. So you have to understand what stimulus you're causing and understand what's happening. So meaning take note of what's happening. So if they say lift slow and you think you're lifting slow, but you're not gaining that absolute strength, you're building size, or you feel like you're moving the weight faster each week, maybe you're moving it too fast, or vice versa. If they say move it fast, but you can't move it that fast, even try to time yourself, watch a video of it, something like that. But if you're not moving it fast enough, maybe you have your 1 rep max off. The point is, if someone says do 80 to 90% of your 1 rep max, right? You need to do your homework to figure out what that 1 rep max is. You need to really be diligent if you're lifting correctly, if you're able to lift because you have the right range of motion, the right flexibility. All those factors fall on you to understand. And I want to see you guys have success, but I don't like you just thinking a program is going to be magic for you and work. The programs, I believe, that I mentioned in the beginning, that my friends have created and people I know and talk to and trust, and they're in it for the passion. They're not in it for the money or anything like that. Obviously, they need to make a living as well. That's why if they pour so much work into it, of course, it costs money. But they're making a program. They don't know anything about you. They don't know where you're starting. They don't know your body composition. They don't know your technique. They don't know your abilities. They don't know anything. That's the only thing. That's all on you to figure out. So I really hope that this doesn't come off of like there's no gimmicks and things like that. I hope I gave great information, and I hope you leave with understanding that you really need to take control of your body and learn every detail, because that's the way you're going to make real progress. And if you really can't figure it out, that's when you consult a trainer. That's when you ask your question. But if you're just going to start at I'm this tall and I can jump this high, what do I do next? There's 100 different possibilities. I have no clue. That's why it's so hard for me to help you. I say there's so many variables, and I feel like by me saying this, I'm hoping that it'll reach you more and it'll give you so many ideas of what to work with, because there are so many aspects. It's a whole lifestyle, hence Dunk Life. I'm not wearing one right now. It's on my back, but that's why it's Dunk Life, because every aspect matters, and there's no way from a simple, how do I jump higher, am I going to help you? This is the best way I can help you, and I really do hope that you can learn from this and you have some idea where to start, because thinking of myself, I'm still figuring out myself and trying to figure out what stimulus I need. Right now, I did a strength phase, but now my knee hurt, so I took time off strength training. I lost a little weight. I can't test my squat, which I was working on in my strength phase because my knee's hurting me. So I think for me, just to give an example, is after my knee heals up, I'm going to test my squat, get it back up to see where it's at. And if it's pretty up there, then I'm probably going to go do more jumping, because I haven't in a while, and I have some newfound strength. So work down that horse velocity curve till I'm jumping at my peak again, and then go right back to maximal strength and start all over again. But I also need a lot of flexibility, and I need more range of motion, and I need all my joints and tendons healthy. And next episode will probably be tendon health. I'm hoping to get it up even tomorrow if you're listening to this already. If not, a couple days. But I really have new insight on that, and I think it's very helpful. But I do want to make multiple episodes. I don't want to just clog one episode with everything. So with that being said, I hope you learned something, and I really hope you have success in your dunk career. Remember, you're your best program. You're going to make the difference. You can pick a program that you want of the ones I mentioned or reputable places. They are great programs. I'm not discounting them at all, except for Virtshock. But in the end, you're going to have to do the lifts. You're going to have to do the work. So I really believe that the best way to do that is to know exactly what you need. And the only way to know exactly what you need is to learn about your body the most. Teach yourself exactly how things work and figure out how your body responds to those different things, and you will live the dunk life. That is it. I love you. Next episode, tendon health, coming soon. If you want to help your boy out, just subscribe, rate the podcast, leave a comment, share it. And I really hope you have success. For me, I'm just rehabbing this knee. My latest vlog was yesterday. It's going well. It feels good from yesterday. I don't think I overdid it. I'm really taking it easy and erring on the side of caution, because you really need to not have any pain. So I'm really taking care of my body, number one, and I'm really looking forward to building a solid foundation. I really think I know, that's why I made this, because I really have learned a lot. I've been researching a ton about how muscles work, how fibers work, how tendons work, and just reading and educating myself. And that's what I want this podcast to be. Everything I educate myself on, from dunking to anything in the world, I want to share, because it's made my life so much better, and I'm enjoying it so much, and I can see the potential, and it makes it so much more enjoyable, and I hope I can share that. So thank you, and I'm rambling now, so I'll see ya soon. Toodaloo! Oh, but I almost forgot. I can't believe I almost forgot. I'm going to create a program as well. I'm working on it. It's taking a while. I think I'm going to make it $5. It may be free, because it's so hard for me to sell anything, but it's taking me so long. I feel like $5 is way worth it. But I just want to make something that's going to be super quick, super basic, but just something at least you can have something to do week by week. It'll probably be 4 weeks long, and just all this information written out so you can try to have something to follow at least, because I think it'll be helpful and something you could reread and something like that. Even those podcasts you re-listen to, it's easier to have a structure. So if you're looking forward to that, or you really want that, let me know, because it is a lot of work, but I do want to help you as much as I can. So Let me know if you want that program. Dunk Life program coming soon. Let me know. Love you again. Toodaloo.
Hey yo, I'm easily fascinated. I'm feeling so creative. It's your boy Stevie. I'm a planet Earth native. I'm enjoying all the moments 'cause it's such a thrill.